Commander, present the colors.
Forgot. Halt! Left turn. Present the colors.
Please welcome Meredith Okwanka to sing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Color guard, retire the colors.
Detail. Order arms. Right turn. By your left, mark time march. Forward. March.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Pastor Julia Sandstrom.
Let us pray. Gracious Lord, this day is a gift from you. The air in our lungs, the beat of our hearts, and the neurons firing in our brains, all are gifts from you. So we pause to give you thanks. We thank you for the food you have provided this day to nourish our bodies and remember those who do not know where they will get their next meal. We thank you for the words we will hear to nourish our minds and pray for those whose minds suffer from illness. And we thank you for the company of one another to nourish our hearts and ask you to be near to those who are lonely. May we steward the gifts we have been given to lift others up. Use the blessings we have received to bless others. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Gleaves Whitney, Executive Director of the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Foundation.
Wow, what a great crowd. I'm so pleased to see so many people who are here to celebrate a wonderful First Lady. Betty Ford is a remarkable human being, and every year when we have this luncheon, we are so proud to be able to talk about one of our favorite topics, and that's Betty, and also to welcome our current First Lady, who will be out shortly. So I'm Gleaves Whitney. I'm very proud to be able to serve as the Executive Director of the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Foundation. And events like this are wonderful because of all the people we get to work with. And I just have to say, the prelude to all of this, the invocation by Pastor Julia and the color guard by the Sons of the American Revolution, and also, of course, the national anthem by Meredith, just wonderful. I've got a little story about Meredith. This is not her first rodeo. Meredith actually got to sing in the Rose Garden back in 1975 when her father, Lowell Perry, became the chair of the EEOC. So I think it's really cool that she's returning to us after all these years to sing at this event. Let's give her a hand. Well, you know, events like this have to require the cooperation of a lot of people. And Cicero once said that, you know, great partnerships double the joys and halve the burdens of life. And we've had some great partnerships to pull off today's luncheon. My favorite partnership, I think, of all today is FLAIR, the First Ladies Association for Research and Education, sitting at this table. Nancy and Anita and Diana and all of you at the table up here. I think that's table 5 if you want autographs. They are stars. We are so proud of our association with FLAIR, and in fact, we're proud that we were the first organization to recognize FLAIR, to affiliate with FLAIR. But with FLAIR, also people from American University, the School of Public Policy, who are also part of this wonderful event. You're going to see I have a little bit of a split personality up here because we're talking about the luncheon, but we're also talking about a wonderful conference that's going to be over at the museum starting 2:15. You guys didn't realize you're going to be in for the whole day, right? And FLAIR is such a key part of that conference. American University is a key part of that conference. We're so proud of that. The National Archives are a key part of the conference. So we're going to have the National Archives present. We're going to have Brooke Clement there at the Presidential Library and Museums, who's going to be joining us there. So a lot of great partners to pull off a great day celebrating our First Ladies and celebrating just all of you because of your support. So we've got other people here that I just want to mention real fast. You know, talk about partners. Sponsors are partners. Sponsors are key partners to what we do. So we're so happy to be just partnering with people at Corewell Health and Blue Cross Blue Shield and so many other organizations, the Steve and Amy Van Andel Corporation, and then we've got in the foundation, and we've got people from Grand Valley at the Hauenstein Center. All of you have helped make today possible. Let's give all of them a hand. And as I look at these tables to my left, we've also got some trustees of the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Foundation. We couldn't do our work without you all. There's Chairman Mike Giannanori, your wife Sue is with you. Thank you so much, Mike. We also have Tina Fries-Decker at Corewell, and we have Maria Chimitilli from Grand Valley. Thank you all for all the good work you do with the foundation. We have Ford family members here. Of course, Susan Ford is here with us, and we also have Greg Ford and Carla. I'm not sure where you are. I can't say. Oh, right there in front of me. Very good. So we always appreciate the Ford's participation in our events. We couldn't do this without your all's enthusiastic support for the work we do. And we also have so many representatives with us here. We have our Congresswoman Hillary Skolton here at table 6. Thank you so much for being part of the festivities today. And we have Winnie Brinks, Majority Leader Brinks, and a number of the Grand Rapids delegation who are here. And we thank all of you for serving and for being here. You know, that leads me to my next point, public service. When you think of public service in Grand Rapids, you're thinking of Gerald R. Ford, aren't you? And Betty Ford. They knew what public service was about, and we are so proud to be able to carry on the legacy of the Fords. And that's what we do at the foundation and at the library and the museum. This foundation has been so much fun because we've gotten to know all the wonderful things Betty Ford that I did not realize beforehand. So I just looked up a survey of all the First Ladies in the last 60 years. And I was delighted to see that Betty Ford comes in #1 First Lady in the past 60 years. It's little wonder when you think of all of the women's lives she saved by telling her story, all the families she contributed to saving because she had the guts to allow an intervention. All of the women she made empowered to go into politics because of their interest in the ERA and the basic fairness of American democracy. The list goes on, and those are the topics we're going to be exploring this afternoon. And I also, of course, whenever I mention Betty Ford, I can't help but mention Susan Ford Bales. Susan's a great partner of the foundation. She has been all along. Susan is the one. If you appreciate these luncheons, Susan and her mom were the architects of these luncheons. They started back in 2012. This is the 12th one. We had to skip a year with COVID, but this is the 12th one we've hosted. And Susan, if you like your gift at your table setting there, the stamp, that panel, Susan was the architect of that, working with the U.S. Post Office. It's always a delight and an honor to have Susan come back to Grand Rapids and join us. Please give her a warm welcome.
Welcome. What a nice group today. Lisa McCubbin Hill, Anita McBride, our friends from Flair, Rachel Siglo, Brooke Clement, your museum, foundation, colleagues, and trustees, Greg and Carla Ford, Joe and Donna Calvaruso, distinguished elected officials, guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2024 First Ladies Luncheon. What an exciting day for all of us. Let me extend a very special thank you to our sponsors and the Foundation's generosity that we were able to conduct this luncheon each and every year. On behalf of Mom, thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I've thought a lot about what to say and how best to introduce our extraordinary guest. How can I express the deep feelings that Mom and I would share about what it means to be honored by our guest in Mom's hometown? Ladies and gentlemen, it's not been an easy task. As I reflected on this task, my thoughts kept coming back to the great work that Mom and our guest each carried out for decades. History now allows us to see the bedrock connections between these two remarkable ladies. Each of them had their moment in time. Each of them had their moment to make a difference. So in short, they had one chance at forever. And oh my, ladies and gentlemen, did both of them make that moment count. There was a time when women had breast cancer and shame behind closed doors. There was a time when words of breast cancer would never be uttered publicly, and most certainly never by America's First Lady. And then, ladies and gentlemen, there was Betty. There was a time when the stigma of prescription drugs and alcohol addiction was as cynical as it was cruel. Most often, it was confused incorrectly with individual moral failure, and a failure caused solely by personal choice. And then, ladies and gentlemen, there was Betty. Now, I must admit that not all of Mom's examples are ones our guests should repeat. Lisa McCubbin Hill, and many of you will recall the now famous photograph of Mom taken by Mom and Dad's good friend, David Kinnerly. David's photo is of Mom standing on the cabinet room table in her favorite dancer's pose. So now a bit of inside advice to our guests. The next time that you are in the cabinet room, you might simply want to touch it, not stand on the table, and then with a smile, remember your fellow First Lady, Betty. Today, the magnificent historical legacy that Mom created shines brightly, and it shines particularly brightly because of the wonderful works of our special guest. Just as Mom did as being First Lady, our guest is a trailblazer. She has been a trailblazer in her many great works and in the examples that she set as a wife, mother, grandmother, role model, and First Lady. There was a time when First Ladies were expected to pick a small project and to stick with that project. No changes allowed. And ladies and gentlemen, then there was Jill. There was a time when women's health care policy and funding were kicked to the shadows of the OMB and congressional back rooms. And then, ladies and gentlemen, there was Jill. And there was a time when it would have been unthinkable for the First Lady to continue working outside the White House in her full-time career. And then, ladies and gentlemen, then there was Jill. A question that I am often asked is, what would Betty Ford think of our current First Lady? My answer yesterday, today, and tomorrow is like Mom, blunt and laser focused. Betty Ford would be our guest's most enthusiastic supporter, period. So therefore, on behalf of Mom, it is my high honor and personal joy to welcome to Mom's hometown a woman of boundless courage and compassion, a woman who shows all of us by word and deed how one person can lift up the lives of millions, and a woman who most certainly Betty Ford would be proud to call her friend. So, ladies and gentlemen, the First Lady of the United States, Dr. Jill Biden. But also, let me welcome, because Dr. Biden has a medical issue, Dr. Carolyn Missouri, who will be presenting her remarks. So please welcome both ladies.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, please. So, I woke up this morning feeling a little under the weather and without a voice. And I said to myself, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I said, well, what would Betty Ford do? So I got myself up and I got myself together. And as an American who really loved Betty Ford as our First Lady, I decided I wanted to come here and be with all of you. So Betty, I'm here for you. But I'm going to have to ask Carolyn Missouri to give my comments because I really don't think my voice would last through everything. So I'm sorry, but otherwise this would be the end. This has to be the end of my speech. So thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Biden. It's a privilege to be your voice today. Congresswoman Skolton, thank you for your warm welcome to your district. Leader Brinks, Joe and I, that's the president, are grateful for all you're doing in Michigan to make women's health a priority. Executive Director Whitney, and the foundation staff, thank you for making this beautiful luncheon possible. Good afternoon. A love of life born on the banks of Whitefish Lake, splashing for hours with friends in its cool, clear water, the summer sun baking down. A heart shared at Mary Free Bed, organizing dance parties for children in wheelchairs and leg braces. Grit formed on Sunday shifts at Hulpersheimer's during the Great Depression. Helping her family pay the bills, the same grit and grace that helped her twirl across the stage at Carnegie Hall. Mrs. Ford was extraordinary. And at her core, she was always Betty Bloomer from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Even as she soared to great heights, she was also grounded. Every woman could see a part of herself in Betty. And in her resilience and triumph, we found our own strength. If Betty can do it, I can do it, as you heard this morning. How many women and men owe their lives to following her example? From breast cancer to addiction, Betty's mark is lasting. What footprint do you want to leave on the White House? It's a question Betty grappled with, and I think each First Lady has in her time. We are only given a moment, as Susan said, a flash on the pages of history. There's no roadmap for how to write your chapter. No course you can take or book you can buy. There are only the legacies of the incredible women who came before you. And all you can do is try to meet your moment in your way with grace. Mrs. Ford did not waste a minute of her moment. The historian Richard Norton Smith once said, "Where women's health issues are concerned, American history is divided into two unequal periods, before Betty and after Betty." Today, I'm adding another chapter to the story of women's health after Betty. Even though we are half the population, women's health is understudied and research is underfunded. Too many studies have left women out, and too many of the medications, treatments, and medical textbooks are based on men and their bodies, and that information does not always apply to women. This has created gaps in our understanding of conditions that mostly affect women, only affect women, or affect women and men differently, leaving women seeking health care in a medical world largely designed for men. When you think about it, the problem becomes obvious. We all know it. We've all experienced it in one way or another. We've even become used to it. If you ask any woman in America about her health care, she probably has a story to tell. You know her. She's the woman who gets debilitating migraines but doesn't know why and can't find treatment options that work for her. She's the woman going through menopause who visits her doctor and leaves with more questions than answers. Even though half the country will go through menopause at some point in their lives, she's the woman whose heart attack isn't recognized because her symptoms don't look like a man's, even as heart disease is the leading cause of death among women. So many of us and so many of the women in our lives suffer from health conditions for which we simply don't have answers or solutions because we don't have the research. It doesn't have to be this way. We can fundamentally change how our nation approaches and funds women's health research. That's what the White House Initiative on Women's Health Research is all about. We launched the initiative in November, and since then we've made remarkable progress. Joe signed an executive order to make sure that when the government funds research, the work includes women from the beginning. We're pushing forward innovation that could be life-changing. We're ensuring that when we make discoveries, those ideas get to the women and families waiting for answers. And Joe is pushing Congress to make the biggest and boldest investment ever made in women's health. $12 billion so that women can finally get the answers we deserve. This is a big problem with deep roots, and we're not going to fix it overnight. But Betty has taught us lasting change isn't quick or easy. It's a daily practice requiring constant tending and sustained vigilance. Small steps each day that build a brighter tomorrow, where women leave doctors' offices with more answers than questions, where no woman ever has to say or hear again, "It's all in your head," or "It's just stress," where women don't just survive, they lead long, healthy, and happy lives. Together, with Betty's fortitude and hope, we can make that tomorrow possible. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Don Cooper, Director of Civic Initiatives here at the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Foundation. On behalf of the foundation, I'd like to extend a special thanks to everyone who made today's lunch possible. Hearing from a sitting First Lady is a special treat. We are grateful to Dr. Biden for her time and for our partners at American University and the First Ladies Association for Research and Education in arranging this special visit, and to everyone at the White House who made today possible. We are especially grateful to Susan Ford Bales for being a steward of First Lady Betty Ford's legacy, not only today here in Grand Rapids, but every day and throughout the nation. Today's lunch helped raise money for the foundation to advance President and Mrs. Ford's legacy through civic education programs that reach people at every stage of their lives. At the foundation, we believe that for someone to be a good citizen, they first must be a good person. That's why our work with elementary, middle, and high school students at the DeVos Learning Center is rooted in the values that President and Mrs. Ford learned right here in Grand Rapids, and why we continue this work through college and beyond at the Ford Leadership Forum to prepare young professionals to answer the call to service. Today's sponsorship from Corewell Health, Huntington Bank, the Steve and Amy Van Andel Foundation, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, Grand Valley State University, Grand Rapids Public Museum, BHS Insurance, Davenport University, Varnum, McKelvey Merchant and Associates, Life EMS, Allegra, and Sons of the American Revolution help make all of this possible. If you would like to join in our mission, I would invite you to become part of our Friends of Ford and receive free access to the museum, special access to programs like this, and so much more. Membership envelopes are at your table, and I hope you'll consider joining us today. Lastly, I'd like to invite one person at each table to take home the centerpiece. The person whose birthday is closest to First Lady Jill Biden's may take it home. Her birthday is June 3rd. Thank you again for joining us today. I hope to see you across the river at the First Ladies Conference.